I should have run the moment I felt the shift in the air. But I didn't. The forest was silent that night, too silent, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Moonlight spilled through the branches, painting silver patterns on the damp earth. Every step I took echoed in my bones, my senses sharpened by instincts I never asked for. I told myself I was out here for answers, for proof of what my family whispered about in hushed tones. But deep down I knew the truth. I was hunting him. The alpha. His presence haunted the edges of my mind. I'd never seen his face, only caught his scent in the wind-smoken cedar, laced with something darker, something that made my pulse race when it shouldn't. My kind despised his. Vampires and wolves were sworn enemies. It was a law written in blood long before I was born. But that night, as the fog curled low around my ankles, I knew I wanted the forbiddance more than I feared it. A twig snapped to my left. I froze. "Come out," I whispered, my voice steadier than the wild rhythm of my heart. And then I saw him. He stepped from the shadows, as if the darkness had shaped him, broad-shouldered and impossibly tall, his golden eyes burning with a light that seemed not of this world. His skin glowed faintly beneath the moon, every line of his body taut with restrained power. I'd imagined him countless times, but reality was worse because he was beautiful in a way that hurt, and dangerous in a way that thrilled. "You shouldn't be here," he growled, his voice low, jagged, like gravel rolling over fire. Neither should he. Wolves never crossed into vampire territory. Yet here he stood, daring, defiant, watching me like I was prey. "I could say the same," I murmured, though the words trembled on my lips. His gaze dropped to my throat, and for an instant I felt the full weight of what I was fragile compared to him, breakable despite the strength in my veins. My family had told me 100 stories of alphas, merciless, bloodthirsty rulers of the night. But what I saw in his eyes wasn't mindless hunger. It was torment. "You don't understand," he said, stepping closer. The earth itself seemed to bow beneath his stride. "I shouldn't even look at you." And yet, he stopped, his jaw tight, as if the rest of the words would damn him, and I understood. He felt it too. The pull. That unnatural tether between predator and prey, enemy and enemy. It stretched from his chest to mine, a living thread of fire that sparked with every heartbeat. My breath caught, my skin prickled, and every instinct screamed at me to flee. But I couldn't. I was rooted in place, entranced. The wind shifted, carrying my scent to him, and I saw his hands curl into fists. His eyes darkened, glowing hotter, brighter, until they pierced me like molten gold. "You're dangerous," I whispered, though the words were meant for myself. He closed the distance in a blur, the raw speed of him stealing my breath. Suddenly he was inches away, his heat rolling over me, his scent overwhelming. He leaned down, his lips near my ear, and whispered words that made my blood turn to flame. "I should kill you." The words should have terrified me, but his voice cracked on the last syllable, heavy with something that wasn't hatred at all, it was longing. A forbiddance, desperate hunger. The forest seemed to lean in around us, the silence pressing tighter, until the only sound was the thundering of my heart. I met his gaze, refusing to look away, even as fear and desire tangled inside me like barbed wire. "Then why don't you?" I asked, my voice daring, reckless. He stared at me for a long, shattering moment. Then, in a motion as sudden as it was inevitable, he grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me against him. His breath was ragged, his entire body trembling with restraint. And before I could speak, before I could even think, his teeth sank into my skin. The pain was blinding, sharp as lightning. But beneath it, there was something else, something that shouldn't have been there. A rush of heat, a pulse of connection so fierce it stole the scream from my throat. My blood surged, his grip tightened, and I felt our souls twist together in a bond neither of us had chosen. He ripped himself away, gasping as though he'd swallowed poison. Blood ran down my collarbone, warm and wet, and my knees nearly buckled. His eyes widened, horrified, as if he couldn't believe what he'd just done. "No," he whispered, stepping back. "This isn't possible." But it was. I felt it, deep in the marrow of my bones, in the trembling of my heart. Something inside me had shifted. Something eternal. And in that moment, as I clutched my bleeding shoulder, staring at the alpha who should have been my death, I knew my life would never be mine again. My shoulder burned as though fire had been etched into my skin, every heartbeat pounding against the wound. I pressed my palm to the mark, but it did nothing to dull the heat. The forest seemed to spin around me, branches swaying, shadows stretching long and sinister. And through it all, he stood there, chest heaving, eyes wild with something I couldn't name. "You weren't supposed to survive that," he whispered, his voice raw, almost broken. The words cut through me like the bite itself. Survive? He had wanted needed to kill me. And yet here I was, blood dripping down my collarbone, trembling but alive. "I should finish it," he said, though his body betrayed him. His fists clenched, his jaw tight, but his feet never moved. He didn't come closer. He couldn't. The golden fire in his eyes dimmed, replaced by something tortured, something I recognized only because I felt it too. Longing. I wanted to scream at him, to demand why he'd marked me, why he hadn't let me die like he claimed he should have. Instead, I found myself staring, memorizing the curve of his mouth, the rise and fall of his chest, the tension coiled in his muscles like a predator ready to snap. "What did you do to me?" My voice cracked, weaker than I wanted, betraying the terror twisting inside me. His gaze dropped to the wound, then flicked back to my face. "I bound you," he admitted, each word like a confession dragged from the depths of his soul. "I didn't mean to, but—" His throat worked, and he turned away for the first time, as if looking at me was unbearable. "Now you're mine." The word mine landed with the weight of chains. My stomach twisted not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. The bond thrummed between us, a pulse I could feel beneath my skin. My body ached toward him, even as my mind screamed that this was wrong. He was my enemy. He was forbidden's. "You're lying." It was easier to deny it than admit what my instincts already knew. He laughed once, bitter and sharp. "You'll find out soon enough. When the craving starts." Craving. The word clawed through me, and I hated the way my body shivered at the sound of it. Before I could speak again, a howl split the night. Low, guttural, and too close. His head snapped toward the sound, every muscle rigid, his instincts flaring like a storm. "They're coming," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "They can't see you." "Who?" "My pack." His eyes cut to mine, blazing. "If they know I touched you, if they smell you on me, they'll tear you apart." A tremor of fear sliced through my chest. Wolves. Dozens of them, maybe more. I could already hear the crunch of paws on earth, the snapping of branches as shadows darted through the trees. "Run," he ordered, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming. "Go back to your clan before it's too late." But the bond tugged hard, anchoring me in place. My throat tightened. "And you?" His expression softened for the briefest heartbeat. A flicker of something vulnerable breaking through the alpha mask. "I'll hold them off. They can't know what I've done." The howls grew louder, surrounding us, echoing through the forest like a chorus of ghosts. Panic clawed at my chest, but stronger than panic was the ache that bloomed when I imagined leaving him here. The enemy, the Alpha, the man whose bite still throbbed against my skin like a brand. "I don't even know your name," I said, my voice trembling. His lips curved, not quite a smile, more a grim acknowledgement of the inevitability between us. "Ronan." The name carved itself into me like another mark, just as permanent, just as damning. Branches cracked in the distance. A shadow darted between the trees. He grabbed my arm, his grip hot and commanding, pulling me closer until his breath brushed my cheek. "Listen to me," he whispered, every word fierce, urgent. "You need to leave. Now." I should have obeyed. I should have fled into the night, back to the safety of my own kind, back to a world where I belonged. But the bond hummed, alive and unyielding, pulling me toward him even as danger closed in. His hand lingered on my arm, his thumb brushing against my skin as if he couldn't stop himself. "Go," he said again, but softer this time. A plea. And yet I stayed frozen, my eyes locked on his, caught in a storm of fear and desire, forbidden and inevitable. The first wolf broke through the trees, its eyes gleaming, fangs bared. It snarled, but not at me, at him. At Ronan. The pack had seen their alpha with a vampire. And I realized, with a sinking weight in my chest, that it wasn't just my life at risk anymore. His secret, the bond, the bite, the choice he made, could destroy him too. And neither of us had a way out. The clearing filled with glowing eyes, dozens of them, circling, each pair fixed on us with hunger and suspicion. The air thickened with the musky scent of wolves, of fur and earth and blood. My chest tightened, every instinct screaming that I didn't belong here. And yet I stood shoulder to shoulder with him. The Alpha who should have ended me but instead marked me as his. The first wolf shifted, bones snapping as he rose into a towering man. His face twisted in fury. "Ronan," he snarled, voice guttural. "What have you done?" Ronan stepped forward, blocking me with his body, every line of him bristling with authority. "Stand down." His command rippled through the air like thunder, and for a moment the pack hesitated, but not for long. Another step forward, then another, voices layering, accusing, spitting venom. "She reeks of blood. She's one of them. You broke the law, Alpha." The word hung between them like a blade. Alpha. Their leader, their protector, their strength. And now their betrayer. Fear clawed at my throat. I should have run when he told me to, but it was too late now. The circle had closed, and I was trapped in their world. "Go," Ronan hissed over his shoulder, low enough for only me to hear. His voice was strained, tight with desperation. "Find a way out." "I'm not leaving you," I whispered back, though terror shook my voice. His head snapped toward me, eyes blazing gold, not with anger, but with something that nearly stole my breath. "If you stay, they'll kill you." Before I could respond, the wolf who had spoken first lunged forward, his hands curling into claws. Ronan intercepted him in a blur of movement, slamming him to the ground with such force the earth trembled. His growl ripped through the clearing, primal and thunderous. "She is under my protection," he roared. The word struck me harder than the sound itself. Under my protection. But the way he said it, the way his eyes met mine even as he stood over his packmate, it wasn't just protection. It was possession. Claim. The circle of wolves shifted uneasily. Some lowered their eyes, instinctively obeying their alpha's dominance. But others bristled, their gazes sharp with betrayal. "You've lost your mind," another spat. "A vampire? Our enemy? You shame us all. My stomach twisted. They were right. To them, I was filth. A curse. Proof their alpha was weak. And I should have wanted him to release me, to renounce whatever this bond was before it destroyed him. But when I met his gaze, fierce and unyielding, I knew the truth. I didn't want freedom. I wanted him. The realization struck me like lightning, searing and terrifying. I should have hated him. I should have fought against this unnatural tether. But every heartbeat, every breath, every trembling inch of me reached for him instead. And then the betrayal came. A voice rang out from the circle low, mocking and painfully familiar. Then let her prove her loyalty. I froze. My stomach dropped. That voice, I knew it. A figure stepped from the pack, shifting from fur to skin, his dark hair falling across his face. My blood ran cold. Kai, my cousin. I hadn't seen him since he vanished months ago, presumed dead in a skirmish between our clans. But here he stood alive, and a wolf. How? My voice cracked, disbelief tangling with horror. He smiled, sharp and cruel. Didn't expect this, did you? The vampire princess chasing after a wolf, while I was learning what real power tastes like. He glanced at Ronan, his smirk widening. And now I see why. You've been busy, Alpha. Pain stabbed through me sharper than any blade. Betrayal wasn't just the wolves, it was blood. My own family. Ronan growled low, protective, his body shifting closer to mine. Stay behind me. But I couldn't move. My legs rooted to the ground as Kai's words twisted like thorns. She doesn't belong to you, Ronan. She belongs to us. Her clan abandoned her long ago. Why shouldn't we take what they threw away? The pack erupted in growls and murmurs. The sound a storm building on the edge of violence. My pulse thundered in my ears. Ronan's hand brushed mine, brief, fleeting, as if he didn't mean for anyone else to notice. The touch seared me, steadying me even as the world spun out of control. Don't listen to him, Ronan said, voice low, meant only for me. His eyes locked on mine, fierce and burning with a truth that shook me. You are mine. Nothing they say, nothing they do, changes that. The words shouldn't have soothed me. They should have terrified me. And yet, as the pack closed in, as betrayal tightened like a noose around my neck, all I could feel was the unbearable pull of him. His voice, his touch, his claim, and the dangerous, unshakable truth that I wanted it to be real. The first wolf leapt. Ronan's roar shattered the night. And I realized, as the chaos erupted around us, that there would be no turning back. Not for him. Not for me. Not for us. The world blurred into chaos. Wolves lunged from every direction, bodies snapping and twisting midder as they shifted between fur and skin, claws flashing in the moonlight. Ronan met them head-on, a storm of violence, his growls rattling the ground itself. Every move he made was lethal precision, but there were too many. I tried to run, but the circle tightened. A wolf snapped at my arm, teeth grazing close enough to draw blood before I slammed my elbow into its jaw. Instinct took over, my fangs descending, hunger sparking sharp and furious in my veins. I shouldn't have fought for him. He was the enemy, but every strike I delivered was for survival. And for him. Through the frenzy, Kai's voice cut sharp as a blade. Look at her. He roared to the pack, pointing at me with bloodied hands. She's no victim, she's fighting beside him. Our alpha is tainted. The wolves hesitated, just for a moment. And that hesitation was all Kai needed. He lunged at Ronan, faster than my eyes could track, and drove a blade deep into his side. The sound Ronan made wasn't human. His body jerked, golden eyes flaring with pain. Blood poured down his ribs, staining the earth beneath him. No! The scream tore from me, raw and unrecognizable. I flew at Kai, fury burning hotter than fire, my nails slashing across his cheek. He stumbled back, startled not by the wound but by the sheer rage in my eyes. For a moment, I saw the cousin I'd once trusted staring at me in shock, as if he couldn't believe I would choose Ronan over blood. But I already had. Ronan staggered to his knees, his face pale, his strength waning. The pack pressed closer, the scent of his blood driving them into a frenzy. The alpha was wounded, weak, vulnerable. Finish him, Kai ordered, his voice dripping with triumph. A howl erupted, and wolves surged forward. Without thinking, I threw myself in front of Ronan, arms spread, chest heaving. You'll kill him only if you kill me too. The pack froze, snarls caught in their throats. Shock rippled through them, disbelief flashing in their eyes. A vampire shielding their alpha, it was unthinkable. Move, Kai hissed at me, his blade still slick with Ronan's blood. I shook my head, my voice trembling but loud enough for all of them to hear. If you kill him, you declare war not just with me, but with every drop of vampire blood I carry. Do you want that? It was a bluff. I had no army, no council standing behind me. But in that moment, fear and fury made me convincing. The wolves shifted uneasily, glancing at one another, torn between their loyalty to Kai's words and their fear of the unknown. Behind me, Ronan's breath came ragged, shallow. His hand brushed mine, weak but deliberate. The touch sent a shiver through me, a tether pulling me closer. Why? He whispered, his voice cracked and faint. Why are you protecting me? The answer lodged in my throat. Because I should hate you. Because everything I've ever known tells me you're the enemy. Because you bit me, cursed me, bound me to a fate I don't understand. But when I turned to him, seeing his golden eyes dimming with pain, the words that slipped out were something else entirely. Because you're mine too. His eyes widened, not with anger, not with rejection, but with a kind of desperate relief. And then, before the weight of the moment could settle, before the pack could break free of their shock, his lips found mine. The kiss was fire and ruin, forbidden and undeniable. His blood stained my hands. His breath was broken against my mouth, but the bond between us roared to life, like it had been waiting for this moment. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't soft. It was possession, surrender, and a truth neither of us could escape. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine, his voice hoarse and trembling. Now they'll never let you go. I turned to face the circle again, his weight heavy against me, my lips still burning. The wolves stared in stunned silence, the bond between us laid bare for all to see. Ronan wasn't just guilty of touching a vampire. He had kissed me, marked me, claimed me before his entire pack, and I had kissed him back. Kai's expression twisted into pure venom. Then you've sealed your fate. The pack howled as one, the sound splitting the night like a death knell. And as the sound echoed through the forest, I realized the truth. This wasn't just forbiddance anymore. It was war. The pack descended like shadows come alive. The ground shook with their fury, claws ripping through earth, growls tearing the night apart. I braced myself, but Ronan pulled me behind him, even as blood gushed from the wound in his side. His strength was fading. I could feel it in the tremor of his muscles, in the weight of his breath, but he still stood tall, unyielding, every inch the alpha they once followed. Kai, he bellowed, voice ragged but commanding. Stand down, or you'll tear this pack apart. Kai only smirked, blade gleaming under the moon. That's the point, brother. The word hit me like a blade. Brother. Ronan stiffened beside me, golden eyes flashing with fury. The betrayal I'd felt in my own veins now mirrored in his. My cousin, his brother. Two halves of a secret neither of us had known until now. You were supposed to be dead, Ronan snarled. I was supposed to be yours. Kai spat back, circling us with predatory grace. But you chose weakness. You chose her. His eyes cut to me, full of venom. So I'll take everything you've forsaken. The wolves surged forward, and the battle exploded. Ronan tore through them, a beast unleashed, but his wound slowed him. I fought too, claws and fangs flashing, every strike fueled by desperation. Yet the pack's numbers overwhelmed us. For every one we struck down, two more appeared. Then Kai lunged, his blade aimed for Ronan's heart. I didn't think. I moved. Steel tore across my side as I threw myself between them. The pain was white-hot, stealing my breath, but I clamped my hand around Kai's wrist, forcing the blade away. Blood poured down my ribs, soaking the earth, but I held on, my scream mingling with Ronan's roar as he ripped Kai away from me. The world blurred. My knees buckled, the forest spinning, but I felt Ronan catch me, his arms iron around my waist. Why? His voice cracked, desperate. Why would you do this? My lips trembled, every breath a knife. Because I'd rather bleed for you than live without you. His eyes shone, torn between fury and anguish, and for a moment, the battlefield disappeared. There was only him. Only us. Then Kai's laughter sliced through the night. Pathetic, he hissed. A vampire bleeding for a wolf. You've cursed us all. Ronan's growl shook the trees. He lowered me gently to the ground, his golden eyes blazing brighter than fire. You wanted my throne, Kai? Then take it from me, if you can. And with that, the brothers collided. Their fight was savage. Primal two forces of nature clashing under the blood moon. Claws raked flesh, bone cracked. Blood flew. I tried to rise, to help, but the wound stole my strength, every movement blurring my vision. All I could do was watch as Ronan fought not just for himself, but for me. And then the truth struck me like lightning. The bond. His bite. My blood. He wasn't just bound to me, I was bound to him. My strength, my life, my very essence could fuel his. It was the one chance he had. I dragged myself to my knees, blood dripping down my arm, and called out to him with the last of my strength. Ronan, take it. His head snapped toward me, confusion and horror flashing across his face. No, you'll die if you don't. My voice cracked. Drink. From me. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. The battle, the howls, even the moon seemed to hold its breath. Then Ronan was at my side, his hands trembling as he cupped my face. This will bind us forever, he whispered, his voice breaking. There'll be no turning back. There never was. I breathed. And then his fangs sank into my wrist. The pain was sharp, but beneath it came a rush so powerful I cried out. My blood flowed into him, and with it, my strength, my heart, my soul. His eyes flared with golden fire as his wound closed, his body healing in seconds, his power surging like a storm unleashed. He pulled back, lips red with my blood, and the look in his eyes nearly undid me. Love, fear, obsession, forever. Ronan turned to Kai, reborn, unstoppable. You wanted my throne. His voice thundered, filled with the power of both wolf and vampire. Come and take it. The fight that followed was brutal, final. Ronan moved with supernatural strength, every strike fueled by the bond we now shared. In the end, he pinned Kai to the ground, claws at his throat. Mercy, Kai gasped, eyes wide. But Ronan looked to me. His choice wasn't his alone, it was ours now. The pack waited, silent, every gaze locked on us. My cousin, my betrayer, his brother. Blood on his hands. Blood on mine. And in that suspended moment, with the weight of kingdoms pressing down on us, I realized the truth. Whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. The forest held its breath. Ronan's claws hovered over Kai's throat, gleaming under the blood moon. Around us, the pack waited in tense silence, their loyalty trembling on the edge of collapse. My body ached, my wounds still raw, but the bond between us thrummed so fiercely, I could feel Ronan's heartbeat inside my own chest. His rage was mine. His pain was mine. And in this moment, his choice would be mine too. Kai's eyes darted to me, wide with desperation. "Your family," he choked. Tell him to spare me." Family. The word rang hollow in my ears. Family had abandoned me, betrayed me. And now, the boy I'd once trusted stood revealed as the man who'd driven a blade into the one soul I couldn't live without. Ronan's growl rumbled through his chest. He didn't look at Kai. He looked at me. "This isn't just my justice," he said, his voice raw, heavy. "It's yours. Decide." The weight of the pack's gaze pressed down on me. They would follow this decision. It would shape everything that came after. For a long moment, I stared at Kai, memories flashing like broken glass childhood laughter, whispers in the dark, his hand reaching for mine. But every image shattered against the truth. He'd chosen envy over loyalty, hatred over blood. My voice was steady when I spoke. "End it." Ronan's claws slashed in one swift, merciless arc. Kai's body went still, his eyes frozen in shock before the life left them. The silence that followed was deafening. And then, slowly, the pack lowered their heads. Submission. Acceptance. The war was over not because we'd won, but because there was no other path left. Ronan staggered back, his chest heaving, golden eyes dimming from fury to exhaustion. He turned to me, and in his gaze I saw it all, the weight of the throne he hadn't wanted, the bond neither of us had chosen, and the fierce, desperate love that now bound us tighter than fate itself. He dropped to his knees beside me, his hands cradling my face. "I never wanted this for you," he whispered, voice cracking. "Not the blood, not the bond, not the war, but the thought of a life without you." His eyes glistened, molten gold turned to liquid fire. "I would burn kingdoms before I let that happen." I touched his cheek, smearing blood across his skin. "And I would bleed myself dry if it meant keeping you alive." The kiss that followed was not frantic like before. It was slow, deliberate, sealing what had already been written into our souls. The pack watched, but for once I didn't care. This wasn't about them. It never had been. When he pulled away, the air shifted. A strange calm settled over the clearing. His wolves knelt, heads bowed. Not in fear, in recognition. They weren't just submitting to an alpha anymore. They were submitting to us. The bond between Ronan and me pulsed, alive, undeniable. A wolf and a vampire, enemies by law, lovers by fate, bound by blood, claimed by obsession. The price had been too steep. My cousin's blood stained the earth. My clan would never forgive me. And the world we'd once known was ash in the wind. Yet as Ronan lifted me into his arms, his strength steady despite all he'd endured, I realized something I hadn't before. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The pack would rise again, change forever. The vampires would come for me, for us. War still loomed, and the shadows of betrayal would never fully fade. But fear no longer owned me. Loneliness no longer defined me. I had chosen. As Ronan carried me through the forest, the blood moon fading into dawn. I laid my head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. Strong, unyielding, eternal. People would call it a curse, that an alpha and a vampire were bound by such dangerous love. They would say it was obsession, that nothing good could come of it. But as his hand tightened around mine, as his voice rumbled low against my ear, "You are my forever," I knew the truth. Obsession wasn't a curse. It was the only thing powerful enough to break the chains of destiny. And for the rest of my life, however long or short that would be, I would walk beside him, not as prey, not as enemy, but as his equal, his eternal obsession. And mine